Okay, that's cool. Okay, so the subject of tonight's little jam is the Boss RC-505 loop station. Whoa, let's take that up. And it is a very cool and groovy thing. I've had one for years, actually. I had one before they were out that was sent over for sort of evaluation. And when it was originally launched, it was very much launched as a beatboxers loop station. That was its kind of marketed strategy, I suppose. And that's absolutely fine because it is brilliant for beatboxing, but it's so much more than that. And in fact, it makes a fantastic thing to have if you've got a bunch of synthesizers and drum machines, samplers, that kind of thing, hardware. Um, because, well, that's the way I've used it for the last sort of 3 years or so. Um, Kind of as the centerpiece. I've used this as my MIDI clock. The MIDI out then would go out and into a little RetroKits MIDI hub, which would then send it out everywhere. So this was the master clock. And it's quite nice because you've got big buttons. You can tap tempo away there and set the tempo manually. You got like a metronome and like a sort of very, very basic drum machine, well, drum patterns. And away you go. Now, there's so many things I wanted to talk about this, so I thought I'll make a little video, and anyone who's interested in it, I need to figure out a way that I can see. Ah, I know how to do one thing. Um, one moment, stay with me. I will talk. Okay, I'm quiet. Am I quiet? I'll make myself louder. I can't see the comments right now, so just bear with me, and I will be back in one. Okay. Hello. Right. I'm just experimenting at the moment with a switcher here. There's the looper, by the way. There's me, and there's you. There's you guys in the chat room. So that's really nice. We can see what's going on. Hey, Rick Olpin. Nice. Hello. Sorry it's so late. Been busy, 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 and it's just yeah, it's only the time I get to do this. Um, Nice. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all joining in here. We're going to talk about the loop station, the RC-505. I've got, as I say, loads of things I'd like to talk about this thing because it's been possibly my most fun and most used gear in the last few years. Uh, you know, in part because I can connect anything to it, but also it's so direct. I have a really nice relationship with things which are direct because I like being very spontaneous and I like making just a load of nonsense, as you will hear, because this thing is just full of nonsense. And speaking about being full, something when I think I announced on Sonic Talk a while back when I got this. Well, I've had two of these. I say I had one at the beginning before they were out, and I fed back a bunch of things about it to Roland, and it was really good. But there was some huge, huge things that it didn't do in version one. Uh, so of course, when it came out and got reviewed, it got reviewed as the version one firmware. This is now like a version two, and when the version two dropped on it, that's when I got it again because I thought that's what it needed in the version one. Namely, that was from a MIDI foot controller, you can now control any of the features on it as of version two. But from version one, you could only do, I think, undo you couldn't do record. You couldn't trigger record, and it was kind of crazy. And oh no, you mustn't have record on the feet because it's for beatboxers and beatboxers have got hands. And that was their justification. And it's like, yeah, but nah. And it's like they've got their pedal loopers and they didn't want their desktop beatboxer looper to kind of compete with the pedal loopers. So it was crazy. It was a really silly idea. That's just, it doesn't really make sense. So thankfully, version 2 then did have the, you know, it had all of the MIDI capabilities that it should have had from the beginning. Another really cool feature from version 2 is that you can kind of you can create empty loops from, uh, so you can just, I think you press and hold it. Do you press and hold it? Oh, I think so. I have to remember how to do that. But that's kind of cool because you can create empty loops, and that means you don't have to press start and stop. You can have all of them set up. You could have like you know, if you wanted to, 5 16 bar empty loops, and then you could just overdub then, just drop in at any point. You don't need to worry about having to start and stop the looping process because that puts a lot of people off because I'm just going to check the messages. Let's see what's going on. Cool. Can't, like, the moment I can't see how many of you are in here, but I can see there's a bunch of you there, so that's nice. Okay, technically, let me just ask you guys if that's okay, please. Everything looking okay? Aha, there's me, there's the thing, and there's you. I hope that's all working okay. Sound as well. Let's have a look. Let's just play a loop. I don't know what this one is. Just loaded it in and haha. Okay, thank you very much. Volume of this. Clipping a bit, thank you. Seems okay here. It looks, I'm quite low on here. I wonder where that is. Okay. Okay, right. Yes, so in From Sonic is this video switcher, so that's new. So I'm just getting my head around it. And in fact, I did a live stream a couple of days ago, and tonight is very much in the same sort of spirit as that in terms of I'm testing this out. So I'm testing it out live, and thank you for joining me because it's nice to do it not on my own. I'm trying to find out from YouTube dashboard on the iPad if I can see comments on here. And it doesn't look like you can. So it'd be really handy if anyone who's watching knows about YouTube comments. Otherwise, I guess I could just watch it, the YouTube feed, but I don't really want to do that. So let's have a look. Thank you anyway, everyone, for the help and the comments there. That is really helpful. Yeah, so I'm just having to flick back to comments, but that means you guys have to see the comments too, which isn't a massive issue, but it does mean that I don't see them as they arrive in real time, so I apologize for that. Okay, I'm talking about the RC-505. The reason I'm doing that is, as I say, I love it. I think it's brilliant. But when I said on Sonic State that I bought one again when version 2 had come out, someone wrote to me and said, did you know that if you open it up, you can find that the memory that it's working on is actually on a micro SD card? Because like when it comes out, you've got, I think it's like a 2 gig micro SD card that comes fitted as standard. It doesn't say it's micro SD at all. It just says that it's got a maximum internal recording time of 2 hours. I think it's something like that. However, I opened it up and sure enough, it was a little SD card, and I put a 32 gig card in it, and it's worked flawlessly in all this time. So that is a cool little thing. If you've got one of these, you can open it up. However, there is a little warning here now because a friend of mine got one of these and he got it, maybe a year or so after I'd got mine. I told him about it and he opened it up and he said, "Oh no, they've kind of put like a glue all over it, so you can't get at the card." Ah, how annoying is that? So he's going to have a go with a little scalpel knife or something and just try and see if he can just hack away at all of the goo and swap the card out. That's a crazy thing to do, though, isn't it? Hey, just, you know, use the technology of a micro SD card and then stop you swapping it out. I mean, Thankfully, that wasn't a problem with mine, and as I say, it's worked flawlessly. And with 32 gig of memory, you can just go really, really long on this. And one of the lovely things about this is you can set these as to sort of loop to any length you want. You can set them to loop. On here, let me do this now. So I would just go through the options of here, and I go to how long do I want the thing to be? Actually, let me just create a blank a blank project. And the quickest way to do that, whoa, there we go. Sorry to startle you there. If you press and hold Alt Start and Stop and keep holding it, it gives you a completely fresh project to work with, which is great. That's a really, really cool thing. Yeah, because there's a bunch of little sort of ninja tricks that I'm going to show you on this thing that I've learned over the years, that really does make it really fun. The 5 loops are all stereo as well, so you can build up pretty complex projects on this. You can designate whether a loop, each loop has its own edit functionality. So when you go into there and go through it, you've got a bunch of options. So for instance, I could choose how long that loop is going to be. Here, it's set at the moment to be it'll last for 4 bars. So as soon as I trigger it, it'll last for 4 bars. Stop, and once it's stopped, it'll either start to overdub or it will just go into play, and you can choose which behavior that you want there. But like looking at this measure here, I don't know if you'd be able to see. Yeah, I'm just about to see that there. Okay, measure 4, and I can change that number there. Just angle that up a little bit. But if you go down, look, you can go into really small, you can go into note values. So you can preset a loop to be, I think the smallest there is a semiquaver. Or you can go on free. And that's the thing. When it's on free, it'll last as long as you want before you press stop, and then it'll start kind of looping then. So very, very, very flexible, because what's quite nice is that those settings are unique to Looper 1. So you can set all 5 to have different looping behaviors. And another cool thing to understand in that way as well is that, well, yeah, this has got loop sync on and tempo sync on, and those things are kind of important, you can probably imagine, for just keeping it all synced up. But you can go play mode, either multi or single. That's kind of cool, because what that means is if it's multi, it'll mean that it'll allow itself to play whilst others are playing. But if it's on single, it'll mean that it'll only play, and then it'll play to the next one. You can then start it from this one. So it means you can, if you put it all into single, you can make a little arrangement that moves from loop to loop. A lot of people don't know that. Oh yeah, look at this. Hey, I can be in a little box there and look at the 505 at the same time. That's pretty cool. I'm going to have a little look at the comments just so see what's going on. Cool. Okay, yeah, nice. I've no idea how many of you are in there at the moment, so how many people are watching. So that's cool. 29. Oh yeah, that was from before, I'm not sure, but 38. Okay, that's great. We've got enough people. It's a party. So as I always like to say, I hope you're all really well and that you're not being too affected by this horrible situation going on. Yes, stick together, peace and love. Anyway, yes, that's out of the way. So yes, the 505. So all of this kind of functionality does mean that it can be a really bespoke workflow that you kind of decide yourself, because as I say, each one of these can be set in a different way. And that also, something that's also very, very cool about that, it means that if you save a project that you're working on. Like, say, for instance, you hit the right button and move on to the next thing, you know. Then these different, like, I guess these are projects, different projects. It's going through the projects. What's actually quite nice though is if you trigger a project and a project is playing. Whoa. I've called this Zeit for very obvious reasons. But if I now choose a different project, as soon as the longest loop reaches the end, then the project will automatically start playing the next one. I think this is a really, really long one. So to prove this, I'd have to wait a long time. Let's see what's going on. Oh man, this is a really long one. I should have picked this one. But you get the gist of it anyway. So it means actually, from a live performance point of view, you can have all your, I'll do this again with a shorter tune because we're going to be waiting a long time before that. I hope that makes sense though. It does mean that you could essentially do it like a project. You could actually treat a project as a song section. So you could say, call it like a verse and have your 5 loops, save it, then move to the next project and record it for however long, and the next section. So then you would have to just then on playback mix it, make sure you trigger the next project, and then it will roll over. So again, people don't realize that. So actually you can, and you've got 99 memories here. So you could build a really complicated song that way. Let's have a look. I'm going back to the mess to here. YouTube stream is a bit rubbish for viewer interactions. Okay. Yeah. Okay, no, that's cool. That is interesting about Twitch. Maybe doing kind of gear, kind of jammy stuff on Twitch maybe is a better platform. However, if anyone's got any questions, of course, please feel free to ask them, or any complaints as well. Please feel free to air them, or any jokes. I would definitely like to hear some jokes. Yes, and hope this makes some interest for you as well, because as I say, this looper, it's been around for a while, and initially, it was not. It was. I think it's been a slow burn, really. Of course, Mark Rebayet. I'm not sure if that's how you say his name. The American freestyler who uses one of these has really kind of he's got it down. He's got it down. He's an incredible freestyle performer. If you haven't checked him out, he's very funny. He's very silly. He tries to play this kind of like sex god kind of guy. And in fact, I think, didn't he have his videos taken down off Twitch because he was doing his looping in his underpants? But yeah, so he, but anyway, yeah, he uses a 505 in a very fluid, incredible way, and it is like an instrument really, because you've got you got the 5 tracks, but you can do a lot of performer stuff. These effects work in quite an interesting way as well. One of the features that came with the version 2, it meant that in the version 1, you could have, well, this is set up like in the version 1 where I can have input effect A, B, or C, but only one of each. And then track effect outputs, it would be the same. But with the version 2, it means you can stack input effects. You could actually have 3 input effects or stacked on top of each other, and 3, like this one is set up actually, 3 output effects there. You know, And that is actually quite a big thing about having the different effects. However, certain effect types can only exist once, so it won't let you stack them. So only certain effects let you stack. But the effects are surprisingly good on this thing. I think, again, a little bit overlooked. I'm going to plug a mic in in a moment, and I'll go through some of the effects, the input effects. But really, the effects that I like a lot are the track effects. So track effects are the difference. Then, obviously, input effects get recorded into tracks. Track effects are applied after the fact, and if you select one of them, then in the menu we can go through what A, B, and C effects are. But we could have there's a lot of kind of what we're always termed DJ functionality, beat repeat, beat shift, beat scatter, and also vinyl flick. Now those things, they seem quite novelty, except they're really, really good because the implementation is actually really nice in that when you so long as the effect name is being displayed here of the particular effect that you want to play around with, like this here, then the edit buttons turn on whether that effect is affecting those tracks. So if you start using like beat repeat functions and bring in and just and literally you just play the edit buttons, then that becomes pretty cool. I need to do some demonstrations of this because it's much more fun to see it in action, but I'll explain a little bit about what's going on. Let's see. I think I've got something drums. Let's find some drums. Oh, I'm in the wrong project. Let me just find a suitable okay. So let's have a look. Okay, so I got a beat repeat on A. Let's leave that one out for a moment. It's a funny tune, this, look. Okay, this'll do. I called it Tipsy Gypsy. What's that? Oh my god. Okay, beat repeats now. Okay, so but so you could like switch them in and out as you see fit. I think I've got some old drums somewhere. Let me find some of them. And then I should mention I filled up, or everything is full. I mean, I haven't named a lot of the tracks in memory. I've named a couple, but it's full. And now, rather than deleting them, what I like to do is like to keep coming back to them. And here is another of the groovy things about this. I like to come back to them, and I like to play around with them a little bit. And this stuff is kind of dross. It's not this is just fun. This is fun stuff. Whoa, where's my life? Come back to me, come back to me. Ah. Okay, that's my Canon M50 dilemma. Taxed in such a way that they're considered cameras, not videos. So they have to, if they're not manhandled at all in 30 minutes, they shut down. So annoying. Anyway, I'm just going to have a look at you guys in there. Listen to Henge. I've seen Henge. Played a festival with them last year. Yeah, they're great. I I play synth heavy stuff, so the need for easy looping is not so big. It does add a lot of options. Yeah. Now I have to say, right. So a lot of the stuff I make on here is kind of just throwaway stuff. I don't really consider it sort of proper work. It's more fun. I love it. I get lost in it, and I have a lot of fun. It's you know, it's not serious work. However, rather than delete them, though, what I like to do is I like to sort of just spin the selector. Let me show you this now. Spin the selector and just kind of stop somewhere. I don't know, 75. I don't know what it is. And then have a little look at what's going on. Okay. There's one blank track on here as well. So, okay. It sounds a bit random kind of stuff going on. Let's have a look. Just creeping in other things. See what nonsense is hiding in here. Transpose. So turn a transpose on, transpose all the tracks. It's quite horrible sounding transpose, but it's quite fun as well. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah. Not the most pleasant tune. Oh, let's change it from a vocoder. Let's have a look. Ring mod. Oh yeah, what's cool here? Oh, sorry. Don't think it needs much ring modding actually. Right. Yeah. So here's another cool thing. When you make your initial loop on this, then that sets the tempo. Either you dial that tempo in first, or you create a loop and then it'll sort of make an estimate what the tempo is based on how long it is. And however, once you've established that it's got a tempo, it means basically that this will time. If I was to put MIDI clock in, it will follow and it will time stretch whatever project you're doing and match the clock. I mean, it's not the nicest sounding time stretch, but it's quite fun. But here's a groovy tip. Actually, let me find something with a beat. So I'll stop it. I'm scared checking out what's on these tracks. This is almost like airing your dirty washing in public, because a lot of these things, they are just doodles. I want to find something. Let's have a look. I don't necessarily create one, move to the next one, create one. I like just to go anywhere within the 100, and which is sort of like, it's like a random way of working. God, I don't know what a lot of this stuff is. Okay, this one would be quite cool to do something with. A lot of stuff is with my Hammond organ. I love these kind of just dark texture things. Okay, now let's do something else. Hope everybody's sort of enjoying this. It's pretty random stuff, I guess. The drums are almost always Vermona DRM 1 Mark III. Here's another cool one as well. If I hit those loops are not going to restart the way I've got it set up because the loop sync is on. So when I start them, they will carry on playing from where they should be relatively in the loop. See, there's nice musical things like that. Not so much that one. Or that. Hang on, let's get back in it. That's another cool thing, you know. I think that's quite a nice feature. But these faders are so fast. At first, they feel really loose, and that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence when you first get them. But actually, what I find with them is that you can be really super subtle with them, or you can go. They're really performable faders. They're a lot of fun. So most of the action there is on this track, isn't it? What I sometimes do as well is when I filled up maybe 4, and this is from my old 4-track days. I'm sure loads of you will have started that way as well, where you work on a 4-track cassette recorder, you fill up 3 tracks, and then you bounce those 3 tracks, record those 3, make a little mix down onto the empty track 4. But then, of course, you'd have to go and record over tracks 1 to 3, and then you'd go and record track. This is because it was really frustrating with 4 tracks, especially if you wanted to do stuff in stereo. So you'd have to bounce down onto 2 tracks. So you can't really do very much of that. So, but they were like little workarounds. I used to love it, and I think in a way, I have a little bit of a thing about my 4-track days with this thing. It's very different, but there is something that connects. In part because I used to make just a load of junk on that as well. Let's have a look in the room. Hey, Brad from Isla. Now, very interesting that he should be popping along. The Isla Instruments have got the new SP2400 sampler drum machine just about nearly ready, I believe. I'm sure Brad can pitch in there and say where it's at, but very exciting. And that's got some interesting little tricks up its sleeve, which which there's a few loopy things in it, which you can do some looping in it, which are a little bit like this. So that's going to be quite interesting. So of course, this thing, I'm sure, as you will all know, doesn't make its own sound. It makes some drum noises. That's the only sounds it'll make itself. It really does rely on having things plugged into it. Now, I don't No, because I can't remember from when I did it with the first one I had how good the MIDI was when it was on version 2 in terms of the MIDI clock and its ability to either be the clock master or to be a slave. I've used it in both slave and master functions quite a lot, and it is brilliant. It's really, really good. I mean, MIDI timing is MIDI timing, which is sloppy at best. However, it works really well for a MIDI as a MIDI device can be. But as I say, in my case, I typically use this as the master clock. And this is the thing that I really like. When you save things, you know, I can go to these things. I can find, oh, I mean, as I go through them, you can see, let me get this back up here. If they're, you can decide how these things are displayed. Um, the way this is showing now, you can certainly see if there's anything on a loop. If I'll try and find a pattern. This one here, for instance, is blacked out, so there's nothing on that particular loop there. I've got this as well set, so as they play, you can see the loops advancing around. They're quite crude. There's not that many lights in this. There's not a lot of resolution, but you can see the pace at which you can see there's faster moving loops here, you know, and I can look at how long each of these loops are. Let's have a look through here. Yeah, so that's a 2-bar loop there. There's another 2-bar loop here, 16-bar loop here, 40-bar loop on this one, which is chugging through it slowly. What's going on that? More strange, creepy sounds, probably, by the sounds of things. um, yeah. I mean, so what I'd like to do as well with some of these things is do real time mix downs and then bring these elements in and putting them into the Octatrack. That's what I've been doing quite a bit of, and also some other samplers that I'm working with as well. So using this as a means to just grab things and then take them out and use them in other devices as well. And I find that a lot of fun. Yeah, and I was going to say as well because that is another really cool feature of this. If I wanted to do a bounce down, of course, I'm sorry, I did not follow through on what I was saying. Like on a 4-track, if you want to bounce down 3 tracks onto 1 track, you can kind of do something like this on here. You can mix, you know, you can set all of these tracks to record on here onto the 1 track. If you take the stereo output out and back in, and I've done it with phones, taking the phones out and having it come back in. Now, it's going to create a horrible feedback situation. But in lurking in the system settings, we flick through all of those settings. Let me just find the right one. There we go. System input line out on. If you turn that off, then it doesn't monitor through itself. So it means play you can play it and it won't cause a feedback loop, and therefore, you know, facilitating a mix down. Again, a lot of people think you can't do that on here. You can, but you have to, as I say, 2 steps. You have to come out of either the phones. Well, you need to listen to it. If you're listening to it out of the phones, fine. And then you're coming out of the output back into the input, but you have to make sure that you turn that off. Otherwise, it will just feedback and horrible, horrible. But the fact that you can do that is good. That's in there. So that's another big plus of this little box here. I'm going to flick to the messages, see what's going on there. Uh, uh, oh, loads. Yeah, yeah, cool. Okay, I'm just catching up with everything. Thank you. I mean, yeah. Let's see. I noticed someone was mentioning the silver bullet. This is going soon, which is so sad because it's been brilliant. It's been in for a review. I've made a review of it. It's not out yet. That will be coming out on Sonic State, I think. I've got some other reviews underway as well at the moment, so quite a few. So I've actually got quite a lot of things. So keep tuned, mostly for Sonic, although on my channel too, there will be more stuff coming along. Back to the 505. I called this little thing the never-ending joy of the 505, and for me and my experience, that is absolutely true. It's a complete joy bringer. I think we should perhaps make a new thing. That might be fun. Of course, I've got no empty slots. You can, there's a USB port on here. I can connect it up and it comes up as a sort of mass storage device and you can grab everything off it. So you can get everything. And I could just then take a complete dump of the memory and scrap it out. What I would love to do, I think this is a really good idea. I wonder if anyone is doing it, but would be to mod this with a something on the back here, SD card slot access, so I could just pop the card out, pop in a different one. Oh, I would love that, because I would just I would just pop this one in and I'd have my 100 bits of nonsense, but just to go back to them, I think it would be really cool. Probably quite an easy thing to do. You can get, I believe, something that can go into an SD card slot and it gives you like an extension with another SD card slot reader on the end, something like that, I guess. Maybe some of you out there may be able to help me with a suggestion. Right. But yes, the deep, never-ending joy that this thing gives, in part, as I say, is because it's relatively simple. But as you start to dig into it, it's actually quite deep as well. So it's that balance of it being able to be immediate, but tweak as well. I think it's really cool. I also have to confess to being a big Roland fan. I have for 30 years loved Roland stuff. I It always interests me. They have some quirky ideas, that is for sure. And I like it how everything that they do is somehow has got this family quality to it, or you know, like if you use Roland stuff, and I've got quite a lot of Roland things. I've got you can probably see there's a couple of pedals there, well, Boss pedals, but I've got my GR55 down here as well. Oh gosh, and I have had lots of others over the years. And there's a certain familiarity with the menu structure and with certain terminologies and the manuals as well, certain things that it's been like for a long time. And it feels nice that there's some consistencies about Roland that kind of just make me feel it's okay, something nice. Anyway, I'm waffling. I am waffling. Some ribbon cables on eBay. Okay, SD card extender. Okay, so not gonna be too difficult. Jeff, San Diego. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you at NAM, Jeff. I'm really sorry. We were crazy flat out at NAM, as you can imagine, doing coverage of NAM for Sonic State, which I mean, gosh, feels so weird, doesn't it? Being in lockdown all this time, and just to think about being out there this year. Wow. Um, God, It's a lot of fun, Nam. It is a lot of fun. It is also an extremely you have to you have to be kind of quite you have to be geared up for it because it's a lot of work. It's very good though, and there's a lot of exciting, just constant exciting things happen there, and it was cool. It was cool. Let's go back here, and let's go back here. In fact, hello. um, these switcher boxes are really proving to be sort of like a real hit during this lockdown period because so many people have started streaming and being able to go between cameras and that sort of thing. It's quite nice. What's cool with these boxes, and this is the Blackmagic 8M minis as well, that do a similar thing, is that this is outputting a USB signal that essentially can be interpreted as like a webcam. So connecting to YouTube like this, for instance, now is great. I'm connecting as if, pretty straightforward. So that's quite nice. And it's got a mixer built in as well. And some processing that you can do. I got a little bit of gating on my voice, which is cutting in and out a little bit. I need to set that differently. Big red on air button as well. And that's nice. But it's only 3 channels, and I'm using my 3rd channel to monitor to be my computer screen. Oh, look at that. I've got the 8M Mini here, and it seems to have a slight audio delay coming from HDMI. That's interesting. Okay, thank you, Brad, for that update. I'm intending to use a mix from the SSL behind me coming out into mini jack line input on the 8M Mini. So I'm not. They don't seem to sync. Ooh, that could be. Well, I've got one on order. Okay, time for some music. But I think that could be good. Let's get the right thing. Right, I'm gonna spin the magic wheel. I don't know. Oh, 83. Right. Oh, well, there's a full house here. What can I tell you before we start? If I hit tap tempo once, oh yeah, the tempo is 111.7. That's the starting tempo. And here is a hot tip. Lots of people don't know this, little baby. Right. So that tempo is the starting tempo. Now, let's say I didn't look at that tempo and I started the track playing. Okay, I'll just use the drums for the moment. Right. So if I hadn't looked at the tempo and then decided to change the tempo, you're going to like this. If you don't know this tip, you're going to love this one. So what's that? 40 BPM. That's the lowest it can go. What's going on? Where has it gone? Oh, I stopped it. Did I stop it? Maybe the drum stopped at that point. There it is. Yeah, listen to that. That brrrt. These that type of like time stretch kind of artifact will be sort of pinpointed in time. That'll be, oh, that's a 2009 time stretch artifact. And then the maximum it will go is 250. Now, how'd you get it back to the starting tempo, especially if you hadn't checked what the starting tempo is? Well, long press on tap tempo. Watch what happens. Flashing. Now it's flashing. How cool is this? It's flashing. It's flashing. There we go. As soon as you release your finger, it's on the original tempo. Isn't that cool? Coincided with the bass and drums coming in. What is this nonsense? What are you playing, Williams? So 505 dudes, did you know that one? Because if you didn't, I think that is a super cool little thing. So as I say, once you start digging with this thing, it's a lot of cool things. Lot of cool things. I'm coming to the messages. Okay. See you, Brad. He's checked out. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh, did I see Accurate? Hey, nice to see you, dude. Accurate Beats in the house. How cool is that? Yeah, so this is me riffing about the RC-505 and some of the things that it can do and some of the things that may be not so obvious. I'm hoping that this is an interesting thing for people. I'm not too niche. I mean, this is, yeah. I longed for something like this for a long time, and I was using floor-based loopers to try to achieve it. And I was thinking, it'd be nicer to have the action to hand and foot switches for doing the thing. You know, like I haven't actually played any of my bass things. I got tons of bass tunes in here as well, and you know, and then that's great. So I've set up the control for this using, I've got a couple of Roland pedal boards which allow really deep integration since the version 2 upgrade of this came out. For instance, one feature that isn't accessible on here at all is the target track, the concept of the target track. And you don't need a target track when you've got hands on, but when you're controlling things from your feet, if you're going to hit a loop, you can either do it, well, it's cool. You can do it a bunch of different ways. One way you can do it is you can set up your floorboard, your MIDI floorboard, to be foot versions of these. So you tread on one, pedal 1 is like treading on that, will start it recording, tread on pedal 2, etc. Or you can just dedicate one button for record, and then you can dedicate sort of switches rather. You can dedicate some more switches to target track up and down, and then that means the target track that you're going to record into, you can move up and down. And it's kind of cool because when you actually do that, you will see it flash. You'll see it flash as it moves up and down the target track. So that becomes quite nice because if your hands are free, like when I'm playing my bass, for instance, you know, I can do something on track 1, I can advance the looper to track 2, and do things like that. But it's also kind of cool as well because of that other function that I mentioned about when you go and you change the track's type, its behavior to being the play mode to being multi or single. Again, when it's single, you can do a combination, but if I set 1 and 2 to both be single and then played 1, if I then press 2, 2 would flash and wait for 1 to finish. As soon as 1 finishes, 2 would start playing. But then we could have these ones all set to multi that play through, that ignore, you know, that just play through it and don't, you know, whilst these two will only one can play at the same time or not. Really, really, really good. Because, you know, although you've only got 5 tracks, it does mean then you can have this combination of progressions and ones that, you know, continue around. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit now about the effects and the way that you can set this up, because this is another kind of cool feature. I did talk about it earlier, but I'll do that again, but I'll do it a little bit more in depth now. What I need is to find a tune with some drums on, more drums. Let's have a look. What's this? Let's see. Oh, my cameras. How annoying. A lot of the time, these things don't make sense until you rebalance them. I mean, I can't remember what I was thinking at the time. Or... Okay, I don't know that's right for the example I want to do. God, there's so much like nonsense when you come to them, but I say you have to work with them a little bit and find the sweet spot again. What is this? Aha. Okay. This is probably going to be quite a good one for the example that I wanted to do. God, there's a lot of background noise on some of these. And because it's coming off my Hammond, it's so noisy. And it's got so all that background noise there. Oh, so this is Hammond stuff. This is all Hammond stuff. Okay, this could be quite fun. I thought it was Carmen then. Okay. Let's see what happens now. So, right, let's just take them out for a moment. So, let's see what the effects. Okay, so the effects are set up at the moment to be so you can stack effects on track 1. I've got a beat repeat. Track 2 is it says vocal distortion, and track 3 is delay. But I'm going to change this behavior back to the other behavior. So the memory button takes you to a set of menu functions that are specific to that memory. So when so memory, I'm calling them maybe projects, but they're memories. So a memory, there's 100 memories, and so when you go into memory, then these can be unique per every memory. So for instance, we can have an overall level that you can then store what the master level is, which is kind of handy. But here's another tip, actually. This is and actually, the reason why so many of the things on here are still called init memory is because I can always forget where you change the name. And I'm going to show you where it is because it is not the most obvious place. So if I went through the write process to save a thing, I go write to 72. Yeah, I'm just going to overwrite the same thing. What have I got here? Write, exchange, copy track 1, 2. So cool feature. Yeah, you can copy any track out from any memory, as they call it, and paste it into another. So I can copy it from track 1 of memory 2. I could memory 72, and I could save it to track 3 of memory 74, or whatever I wanted to do. But no naming in that process. It's not in the right memory, and I feel that's a really odd thing. However, exit out of this. Look at this. I go into the memory, and it starts from memory level. That's like the start, and then I go across memory level, tempo, master compression, which is kind of quite nice. Master reverb as well. I forget about that, but I think it actually sounds quite nice. And here's the thing I wanted to change. Input effects, well, it's not input effects, track effects is set to multi. I want to change that to single because I want the only one effect to play at the same time. And I'll explain why in a moment. But I was mentioning about naming. If you hit memory, and as I say, when you go into the memory, when you hit memory, yeah, it defaults to memory level. If you push page back 1, memory name, it's like hidden. It's like those tracks when you had a CD, you could put a hidden track on track 1 that starts before where the track marker starts. And remember, you could do that. I don't know if you remember that, but so you could embed a hidden track into track 1. You might listen to track 1, it might be, like 3 minutes long, but you can have a song pre-time on a CD. You can do it. It's a way of making hidden tracks, and the only way that you could listen to that track would be to press and hold the rewind button, and it would rewind back past naught and into the hidden track. Oh, I don't think you can do hidden MP3 tracks. Maybe you can. Don't know if you knew about the little hidden CD track thing there. That's kind of, probably a long time since anyone's ever done that. Anyway, so that's a bit like this, because you have to kind of go, you go in here, you go memory, Because all of the menus start like that. You go into it and then you advance through pages of memories, but this is the only one. You go memory, you have to go back one to find it. It's kind of good in a way because once you know it's there and you want to change the name back, you can get to it reasonably quickly. But let me see what's happening here. Mark Rabbit, yes. Yeah, these are great things. These are really great things. I can't recommend them enough. It's a liberating device to have, and you can use it for any music forms whatsoever. Let me go. I think this. Shall we stay with this picture in picture? What's this one? Oh, that way. Oh no, we'll stick. I think this one is kind of cool. It's reasonable. Yeah, it looks in focus. It's all good, isn't it? Hope you're enjoying this. It's a bit just freeform waffle, really. I thought I would share some thoughts about this 505. Um, yeah, I will make something new as well, and I'll just initialize a patch. Shall I do that? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let me just grab something. Let's go on comments for now. Oh, excuse my noise. I'm clicking stuff in here. Okay. An Ash and a Soul Wax album, that pre-track bonus. Yeah. Difficult to rip. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, this thing is cool. This thing is cool. I can barely fault it now, actually. But let me actually think about that. What would I do different on it? What would I do different? What would I do different? I think it would have been brilliant if you could have done an internal bounce without having to actually plug the outputs to the inputs. It would be brilliant if you could somehow do an internal mixdown in some way. Oh, that would have been super cool. That's about it. Pretty much everything else for its what it's trying to be. I think it does really well. Should also mention it is an audio interface as well. And when you use it as an audio interface, it is actually quite good. It seems to me that all Roland and Boss devices at a certain price point for a certain period of time all come as audio interfaces as standard. Pretty much all of my boxes, effects boxes, they all function as audio interfaces. However, there is an enormous drawback in that they always need this driver to function. That means they're not class compliant. That means you can't use this as an audio interface to your iPad or your phone, which is really sad. It would have been absolutely brilliant to be able to use it as just a class compliant audio interface, but you can't. You have to have this driver. But it does mean if you are using it with a computer, though, that it is an audio interface that gives you a few different input options. You've got a mic, no phantom power on this. Oh, hang on. I'm saying that I'm being an idiot. There is phantom power. There is. And the phantom power is actually currently on. I'll turn it off, although I've just plugged in a dynamic mic. And that's why phantom power is called phantom power. For microphones that don't need it, it doesn't see it. It's like it's not there, hence a phantom. And that's how it got its name. There we are, fact fans. Okay, ta-da. So I'll initialize a patch, I think. Let me just, I might find a rubbish one because I might want to keep this new one. Let's have a look. They're mostly rubbish. I get a bit precious about the rubbish though. Oh, got to empty the memory. I'm gonna mod it. I want to pop out cards. Why the heck not? It'd be so much better, wouldn't it? It'd be, why they didn't do that in the first place, the numpties. I mean, they might not have done it because they might have thought, oh, because beatboxers are going to be using it in sweaty clubs, people will nick the SD cards out of there. So, we want it all stuck inside. It's a very curious decision to put an SD card slot inside, and it, and especially to glue, to put like a glue over it. I just think that's bad. I think that's because people, it's easy to unscrew and to get into. So it wasn't exactly a difficult thing. However, I didn't know about it, and I was thankful for whoever it was who kindly let me know about it. Yeah, that's cool. I want to see what's happening here again. I always worried about blowing things up with phantom power. The only things you can really damage with, well, actually, no, there are some things you can damage with phantom power. Ribbon mics typically don't like phantom power, and that can damage ribbon mics. But also some equipment can be quite sensitive and doesn't like it either. So you do have to be careful. The other thing you have to be careful with phantom power is when you power off something, to give it a few seconds to discharge before pulling out the cables. Phantom Power, also a great Super Furry Animals album. Yes, it is. The Zoom R16 has an SD card slot, but with a cover that can be screwed on to keep them getting nicked. Yeah, you see, they could have done that, couldn't they? Yeah. I guess their thinking was, well, you can plug it in with USB and get stuff off it that way. And that's, and you absolutely can. But as I say, I think just swapping cards out would be great, because I might have loops from, when, I'd like to maybe just go, oh, this is 2015 to 2016, and just do them. And then quite nice then just to be able to go back through time. Get the Dremel out. Is that Lee Kemp? Yes, it is. Hello, Lee. Get the Dremel out. There is a Dremel in this house. Yes. So, yeah, if I'm going to do it, it's got to be nice. It's going to have to be done nicely. So, I may do that. There may be something in the future. um, yeah, I hope you guys are all good. I'm good. You see, I'm really watch this now. I want to see. I can't see how many of you are in this, because what? But if I press this, we get the crazy video feedback. Ah, actually, I can't see anything. Oh yeah, I can see 37 people in the room that way. That's nice. 37 of you out there. That is super cool. Thank you so much for taking time out to join me on this little a waffle turning into a waffle-a-thon, actually. But there is a lot to say about this, actually. I think, and I think something that happened to this, I see happen to various pieces of kit as well, in that in its version 1.0 release candidate thing, when it came out, and in that first bunch of reviews that it had, it's from the version 2 firmware update, significantly better, but doesn't get hardly anyone it doesn't get many reviews. So when people are looking up reviews for this, they read reviews of it when it was version 1, and it's so much better. I say so much better. Same thing, it's it, it is a common it's a common problem. We found this with the Novation Circuit. When that came out, I did the review for Sonic State of the Novation Circuit, and it was fun. When it came out, it was the tagline of it was like "start something" or something like that. Just that it gave you a bunch of things. You didn't have to think about too much. You could just get something up and go in, and you didn't know what any of the knobs did, but they made cool changes. But people were like, "Oh, I want to know what things are," and subsequent updates of the circuit transformed its functionality like enormously, and all for no upgrade cost at all. Huge differences, so much so that we had to go, I think it was on version 1.4, when we had to film a new like kind of addendum to our original review, because it was so out of date. Even though it was like a year old or something, people were still, that was one of the preeminent reviews of that thing, and so people would be checking it out. It's just not accurate at all. It's like, so many of the criticisms in that first, were tackled. And I know it's at least 1.7 now. There's been a whole bunch of other things which made that 1.4 review out of date. Kudos to Novation on that. They did an incredible job. I mean, I don't expect much else to change in the world of the circuit, the original circuit. I mean, I think seeing a circuit successor, proper circuit successor, is going to be an interesting thing. I'm almost certain that's going to happen soonish. I think, I think the product lifespan of the circuit. I mean, they brought out the circuit mono station, which has not been as big a success as the circuit. In fact, they are on super discount at the moment. I think you can get them for about £250 thereabouts, which it makes it much more competitive as an analog synth, because very well spec analog synth in the circuit mono station. But the original circuit, as I say, what brilliant thing, really, really good. And if you use it in conjunction with a computer and use the sample manager, a lot of people were really upset about them using like a kind of web-based approach. They did do it so you could do it offline as well, which is really cool. But yeah, the cloud, they embraced that kind of cloud saving for all your patches and samples, and it works really, really well. It's textbook in a way. That's an excellent example of how to do that integration. Roland are going completely that way now, aren't they, with their new products? And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, virtualizing everything so your patches aren't, are all elsewhere. The way of the world. Let me see. A circuit successor has a lot to live up to, considering the insane expansion of its features over its life. Yes, Beat Chef, absolutely, exactly. I completely agree. Bit like the Zoom Arc 96 situation from Wagyu. Ah, yeah. I've got one of those things. There is going to be some videos coming up about that thing. So far, it's confounding me. I don't like it. I gave it my pick of NAM 2016 because I just was really excited. It was so Japanese and such a kind of, you know, quirky approach to music making. However, when I finally got one, when they were at the end of when they were being discounted for unbelievable bargains at Toman, I got one, and I need to spend more time with it, I think, is the bottom line. But it's disappointing. It keeps disappointing me. The looper part of it is really frustrating. It says looper, but a better name of it really would have been more like, I don't know, session. It's almost like the session view in Ableton. You can load up all the pads with loops. What you can't do is use it as a looper. And it almost looks like you can, because you can grab things like a looper, but you cannot use it as a looper. Oh, it's such a shame. It would have been so much better if you could. So that's why this thing kind of got it right, really. It's interesting as well. It's a Boss. Boss is the guitar division of Roland, as we know, but it actually is a separate, I think, a slightly separate division within inside of Roland. There's certain people who work in different, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm talking nonsense. I actually don't know. But the Boss RC 10, no, which number was it? The RC, I can't remember. The RC3, I can't remember what the first one was. The first Loopstation that they did, I can't remember the number of it now. That's the chat room, please. And then they did a few others, and then they did the RC50, didn't they, which was the first big pedal looper, I think, other than maybe the Boomerang as well. That's a fun looper. But I think you have to really hand it to Boss for really being the major proponents of looping. And they did and they probably still do. The Looping World Championship was typically a Boss event, I think, as well. And people got a bit bored of looping, seeing performers doing loop. It sort of did become a little bit, I don't know. I mean, it was amazing when you saw it originally, and then yeah, you sort of kind of go, yeah, I've seen a bit of looping, but it still can be like an incredible art. And when you see sort of like Marc Rebillet doing his thing, he's so entertaining, so funny, very crude, but he's funny. He uses it in not so much, he just uses it just like a fluid, like a tool, like an instrument. Really good. Speaking of which, then I've got a microphone here. Crash. I'm just going to wipe this. I don't know what it is. I'm going to wipe it. I won't, I don't know. I won't save this. This will be on video. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through some of the input effects because there's some quite fun things you can do. And also with the and with the output effects, I wanted to show this, didn't I? So I'll combine both things. Memory, I'm going to turn the track effects to being single and not multi, but the input effects is going to be set to multi, so I can have all of them on at the same time. So I can get quite creative with the effects layering. So for any effect that you select, then if you use these kind of page buttons, you will get a few settings specific. Like, so at the moment I've got phaser. So whatever's said in I'm talking into this mic, whatever it says here, it goes off, it times out. So if I was to go and change this now, it wouldn't change. So you have to bear in mind that it has to be saying it in the screen. So here, phaser. Now when I pan across, I can see what parameters are available to me. So in the case of the phaser, I've got rate, depth, resonance, step rate. I'll show this now. Effects level. Now as I turn the knob, I can see which of the parameters the knob is going to be set to. The knob is always preset to one of those parameters, and you can't change that. But usually it's a sensible thing. So in the case here, it's of the phaser, it is set to level. So let's have a listen. Let's take my main mic out. Yeah. Okay, we're coming on this mic now with the phaser depth, phaser. Yeah, gets really chewy. Now let's have a look at some of these parameters. Effects level. So we've got the step rate. So if we turn the step rate on, and if I whiz through it, yeah. Actually, this is something else I wanted to show you. Pretty much all the way through any of the any time-based things. Any time-based things, for instance, delay time, but chorus, anything with a rate, the way this works, this is really useful to know, is like, see the step rate of this phaser goes from off and it goes from 1 to 100. However, when you get to 100, lurking on the other side of 100, you find 4 measures, 2 measures, 1 measure, and then there's our crotchet. Sorry, not crotchet. What are they? Minim, 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 minim. Minim, dotted, crotchet, triplet, minim, crotchet, etc., etc. So you find tempo mapped things. And some people don't know that either, because they don't default to that. They default typically to the numbered rate. So you have to whiz all the way through before you find them. And that's kind of cool, because once you know that, then anytime you see that, like there's a rate, you can find tempo synced at the end of that. I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but if you don't, they're there. Okay, phaser isn't my favorite effect on vocal, although can be pretty cool. Oh, I will have to say something first. I've just watched the Beastie Boys film today, and it is fantastic. A huge fan. I was quite emotional watching it because I was remembering the early 90s and being played the album Check Your Head by my friend Andy Flack, and it blowing my mind and changing the course of my musical direction pretty much. And I was really ready for Ill Communication when that came out in 94. Check Your Head. Oh man, Check Your Head had just sort of a little bit like what it was like for musicians when they heard Sergeant Pepper, I think, in a strange kind of way, because I just kind of thought, wow, you can do all of these things. It sort of felt like it just legitimized a lot, a really much broader approach to stuff. It goes on about that in the film. Sort of mixing hardcore with rap, and then mixing that with sort of, with some funk and some sort of like metersy kind of instrumentals kind of stuff. And I loved it. I mean, when Ill Communication came out, I mean, that was the big album that year. I mean, gosh, and the year after, I mean, for me and my friends, it was just on constantly. Wow. Uh, and the Beastie Boys movie, I think it's only available at the moment through Apple TV, but I think you might be able to do a free trial. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, it's really worth watching. That is. What a fantastic, influential band. I mean, I'm old enough to be. In fact, I was the right age for when they first came out with License to Ill in the mid '80s. You know, in fact, having conversations about this. They were wearing the VW badge that had been, and it was kind of almost like, yeah, we'd taken it off a car and just wore it. They were just putting out this really bad attitude. Um, so anyway, and this happened everywhere, but it happened big time in my school. That all the teachers who were driving VWs had their badges ripped out of the grills of their cars, and people were walking around the school with it on. I mean, I think they were probably doing it in break times and stuff, uh, but like but it got crazy because then it started not just being VW badges. People were nicking any badges. Someone would come in with like a Peugeot Lion on, and like all the teachers' cars were having their badges nicked, and it was all the Beastie Boys' fault. Amazing how when music has that the ridiculous, just totally teenage rebellion, the power to do that is amazing. Yeah. Check it out. Yes. Yeah. Hello Nasty. Yeah, what a great, that's brilliant. It's so good. It's so good. The RC-20. Yes. Thank you very much, Ghost Chip. Yeah. The RC-20, and then the RC-20 XL. That came out after the RC-20. The XL had more memory, I think, or something like that. Yeah, but the RC-20, that was the one, and it was in the 2 pedal format that Boss brought out at the end of the 90s, I think it was. And yeah, that thing, you know, there are moments in time in history where you kind of go, that's a very influential piece of kit that has kind of spawned, not just other kits, but like musical genres, Um, uh, things. The DX7 is another one of those things, isn't it? The 808 is as well, and the 303, I guess. But yeah, the RC-20, give it its dues, and then this RC-505, RC, what does it stand for? Repeat. What does it? It's probably really, really obvious. Looper. Don't know. Anyway, let's try and do something. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to change an effect, you press it. It's on. Turn it off, but it stays. Let's see. Let's turn this up a little bit and turn it down. Slow gear. Transpose on the input. This will probably sound really horrible, but let's have a listen. Okay, I'm going to transpose, and let's turn this. Transpose my input. Okay, let's have a go. Oh, it's quite nice, actually. Oh, yeah. What do you think? Do you think this voice suits me? Do you think I sound sexy? The cameras quit then. They said, no way, no way. Yeah, I think I could kind of get used to this.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going up. 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 Going up. I'm growing up. I'm going up. I'm going up.
I'm going very small. I'm going very small. I'm going very small. Okay. All right. What do you think about this? A little bit too much.
Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. Something like that. Then I'm just working out where I am. But it is quite strange because it's transposing, but ultimately I'm in charge of my notes that I sing. The notes that I sing. Let me make a little song for you to dance along. This is not very nice for your girlfriends or your wives. I'm very sorry. Right, okay. All right, well, actually, I said I could stack my effects, so where am I going to go after this? Panning delay? Ah, okay. That's quite nice. Let me see what I can do. So, here we go. Example 200 milliseconds. All the way up here, all the way up here, and we find time delay. So if I get my metronome on, metronome. So I'm in, like Flynn.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Right, on track three. Roll. You have to be careful with roll your boat.
See, that's quite nice as well. Though. Effects carry on like delays. So when you turn it off, the tail keeps on going, which is pretty cool. Check in. Oh no, built-in laughing gnome cover capability built in. Very good. Barry White. RC Roland Corporation, possibly. Yeah. Okay. God, I've been on a long time now. I'm gonna make something up. I think I'll just build up a stupid thing. It's not going to be very sensible, is it?
Are we going to start with that? Oh, yeah, like that. Roll. Ring modulation. Oh no!
I remembered how to do it. So I mentioned really early on at the top of this that when the version 2 update for this came out, it's nicer on this mic, isn't it? When the version 2 came out, the functionality increased in a really cool way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show what that is. You can preset up empty loops and you can do some quite funky things. Let's do something here. So first of all, I'm going to go and find where I set the loop amount up. Measure is currently set on this track to be free, but I'm going to change this. I'm going to just change it to being like 1 bar. And now if I hold down stop, that's how you do it, and hit play, what it'll do is it will create a loop like so. It's created a loop that is 1 bar to the tempo. It's at 192. That's why it's going so fast. Let's drop our tempo down to a nice leisurely 100 or so. There we go. 100 BPM. So I've created an empty an empty loop. And you say, well, why do you need to do that? Well, now I don't need to stop. If I was to turn the rhythm on as well, let's just turn that rhythm level up. Why is that not? Why have we got no rhythm? Oh, I turned it down here. Here we go. All start, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Yeah. So that's playing a bar. That's doing a complete bar, and I don't need to tell it where to start and stop. And then, so if I come to the next one, for instance, and I pan across to the right setting, the measure 3, here, I could change this. I could make this like an 8-bar loop. Again, I press stop and play, and I've now made an empty loop. This is again a feature from the 2.0 firmware. Oh, I got my both mics on now. Okay, I'm coming back to this one.
Remember me? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. And so forth along here. But what I'm going to do here, which is quite fun, is I'm going to create, I'll do it on these 3 tracks here then. Measure. I'm going to set it really short. I'm going to set it to 1 beat. And then this one, I'm going to set it to essentially 2 beats. And this one, I'm going to set it to half a beat. Okay, so I need to make these loops. Stop, play, stop, play, stop, play. Now these are super short loops, really short, like this one. You'll watch how fast this will go. So I can put something in there. No, 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 no. Okay. Now, let's put something in here. Shame. It's a shame about you. 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 Okay. It's a shame about you. 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 It's a shame about. So this is the beat scatter. It's really fun. This is. It's a shame about you. It's a shame. So I'm going to set this one here. It's a shame about you. So the beat shift. It's a shame about you. So beat shift swaps things around. So it's a shame. So it's going to affect everything now. It's a shame about you. It's a shame about you. It's a shame about you. Let's go to that metronome. It's a shame about you. It's a shame about you. I'll set this one to transpose. It's a shame about you. So this is going to drive you all wild, horrible thing. It's a shame about you. It's a shame about you. There we go.
It's a shame.
About you.
God.
Sorry, that was absolutely dreadful. But it's fun though. I really think it's fun. Like all of these things, you can, it's. And what I typically do when I kind of get myself lost in these things is just keep mangling, and I love it. I haven't got it set up. I could grab a lead, but when you start to sort of just bounce down, like it's get a load of nonsense, bounce it down, put it through some more effects, bounce it down, put it through some more effects, bounce it down, put it through some more effects, etc., etc. One thing be aware of, if you are bouncing down, you do have to forfeit your input effects. You have to only apply effects on the next bounce out, because you can't monitor through. Otherwise, you get the feedback loop. Let's just have a look now. May I ask, have you synced the clock with any doors through MIDI yet? I have. I have synced it with. Gosh, what have I synced it with? I think I've synced. Yeah, I've synced it with Ableton. I have synced it with Ableton. Yeah. Roop. Yeah, it's a really, really strange thing with Japanese people, that they get their R's and their L's the wrong way round. It's just something they. So Roland, they'll say Lorand. Not everybody, but it's there's a really peculiar thing, and someone explained it to me once. It was something to do with just them not existing or something in the native language, those particular sounds, L's and R's. So it's just curious that a Japanese company should, take Roland. That's got both of them in there. I used to know this wonderful Japanese drummer, and he would talk about sort of just getting into the groove, and I just love it. Love it. I think it's really, really nice. It's just, yeah, a funny little quirk. I can teach you how to say Japanese R, say English R, but put your tongue where it is for the English L. Ah. And then you get the in-between Japanese R sound. That's kind of what it must be. Thank you. That's really interesting. Yeah, cool. How are we doing? I've just got, oh God, I've got to do this thing. Sorry, watch out for the video feedback. This is, oh, I guess I could do this, couldn't I? I could go, bye for now. Ah, I was trying to hide that. Okay. I've just seen the time. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I was going to try and do something good musically, but I think I'm in such a kind of talky mood that the music's going to suffer. Obviously. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I've just enjoyed talking about this thing because I really have had such a lot of fun with it, and I can't recommend them enough. I think you can pick them up reasonably cheaply now. I'm not sure exactly. I'll just have a little look at what the new prices of them are. It's the Boss RC-505. Just curious. Juno in the UK, I've got them for 359 UK pounds. Absolute Music 356. Wow. Yeah, because I think it was around 400 and something, 450, I think. Okay, so that's, for me, that's actually a very good price, because it is an audio interface as well, albeit fairly simple, but you still can do some pretty cool things. The MIDI is good. The MIDI is good. There's decent things you can do. Oh, I should also mention this pedal input here, in typical Roland style, takes a 2-switch pedal or an expression pedal, one or the other, and you can do some very, very cool things with that. Oh, I should have got it with me. It's downstairs. But I've got a switch that goes up and down. It's a Roland one. And the way I've got it configured on this is the lower switch acts as the record trigger. The upper switch acts as the target select. So I toggle the upper switch and then it just moves through. I can't go up and down. But it's because it's only 5. It's quite easy. You just advance one, or you advance to which one you want it to be, and then I can record, or if it's not playing, but something's recorded, I can start and stop them from that as well. So that's kind of pretty cool. But I think I'm going to call it a night now because it's super late here. And I've enjoyed this very much. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for really nice comments and joining in. I've got to figure out a better way of doing this. I had my iPad here so I could witness comments in real time from the YouTube studio, and I don't think you can. I can't see any evidence of me streaming from the YouTube studio. So I don't know if anyone out there knows the answer to that. I'll certainly need to research that. But I want to be able to see the comments all the time so I can react to them. And I think that's a big part of doing this live. I'll leave these videos up. They'll be, I don't know that many people will want to watch them. However, they will remain. But yeah, as I say, thank you ever so much for joining me. I'm going to do my video feedback nonsense. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Sorry, one moment. There we go. I will do a 505 part 2 again. I will do another video about this because thank you for the comments. The BPM reset. Okay, cool. I'm glad. I was hoping that someone might have picked up on that. That's really cool. 389 on Toman price. Cool, you know. None on eBay secondhand. Yeah, why would you want to get rid of them? If I was to do what's that horrible guy? It's not horrible, but he does. It's Doug DeMuro. He reviews cars. He's not horrible. I don't know why I said horrible guy. He's a bit annoying, I guess, but he's all right. But he gives a Doug score about cars. I should do a Gaz score really about things. And I would give this. I make my scale from 1 to 17 to give myself a little bit more granularity. 16 out of 17. It loses 1 point for not being able to do internal mixdowns. But other than that, I think, yeah, great. I mean, there are areas that could improve. The time stretch could sound nicer. The effects could have more parameters, could sound nicer as well. You know, the reverbs and stuff, they're okay. We can hear some reverb. God, I was just finishing, wasn't I? But let's just hear some reverb and you'll see what I mean. It's all right. It's all right, but it's kind of reverb that you'd expect on devices from, you know, a few years back, I think. It's not as nice as for instance, the Ventris that I've got on the desk behind me there, or this fella, the Eventide H9, you know, when you've got reverbs of that quality, it really shows up some of these older reverbs really. Now I'm struggling to find a reverb because it depends on what you've got loaded in, will depend on what effects are available to you. I think in certain slots, oh, there it is. I can have one ish. I think I can only run one reverb, and parameters wise, I can have time and effects level and direct level. I mean, cool. I can take the direct level out. It's nice to get a completely wet signal, which I'll do now. I was just wiping that. Hang on. So let's get that reverb on. Reverb. Yeah. Hey. Ah. I've got no control over the tonality of that. I mean, I could maybe do it in a different slot. I'm not sure if there is a way of doing it. I think it might have to live in C, but then I could do an EQ downstream, but I don't think I can. No. Ah, 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 Elon, Take the direct level all the way out. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go now. Good night. Take care. Please be safe and spread the love. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind. Yes, to everyone you meet, even if they don't deserve it. That's my sad slogan. That's my slogan now. Be kind, even if they don't deserve it. You'll be the bigger person. Yes. Yes. Be nice. We have to keep believing in being nice, because there's a lot of reasons to not to challenge that, and yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Catch you soon.